Euzubillahimineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi şrah li sadri ve yessir li emri vehlul ukdeten min lisani yefqahu kavli. Selamünaleyküm ve rahmetullahi ve berekatuh. So inshallah we will continue with the third remark. This is 23rd word, second chapter, and third remark. And the entire 23rd word, starting from the first chapter, is the interpretation of the verse from Quran. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Indeed, we have created man on the most excellent of patterns, then sent him down to the lowest of the low, except those who believe and do good deeds. So this is the verse that we are studying, and inshallah today we will continue with the third remark.
In regard to his acts and deeds and his labor, man is a weak animal, an impotent creature. The extent of his power of disposal and ownership in this respect is so narrow that it is no greater than as far as his hand can reach. Domestic animals, even the reins of which have been given to man, have each taken a share of his weakness, impotence, and laziness, so that if they are compared with their wild counterparts, a great difference is apparent. Like domestic goats and cattle and wild goats and cattle, but in regard to passivity, acceptance, supplication, and entreaty, man is an honored traveler in this hostel of the world. He is the guest of one so generous that infinite treasures of mercy have been opened to him, and innumerable unique beings and servants subjugated to him. And a sphere so large has been prepared for this guest's recreation, amusement, and benefit that half its diameter is as long and broad as the imagination can stretch. Thus, if man relies on his ego and making worldly life his goal, attempts to taste temporary pleasures while struggling to make his living, he becomes submerged within an extremely constricted sphere, then departs. All the members, systems, and faculties given him will testify against him at the resurrection and will bring a suit against him. Whereas if he knows himself to be a guest and spends the capital of his life within the sphere of permission of the generous one of whom he is the guest, he will strive for a long eternal life within a broad sphere and then take his rest and ease. And later he may rise to the highest of the high. Moreover, all the members and systems given to man will be happy with him and testify in favor of him in the hereafter. For sure, all the wonderful faculties given to men were not for this insignificant worldly life, but for an everlasting life of great significance. For if we compare man with the animals, we see that man is very rich in regard to faculties and members, 100 times more so than the animals. But in the pleasures of worldly life and in animal life, he falls 100 times lower. For in each pleasure he receives is the trace of thousands of pains. The pains of the past and fears of the future, and the pain at each pleasure's passing spoil the enjoyment to be had from them, and leave a trace in the pleasure. But animals are not like that. They receive pleasure with no pains. They take enjoyment with no sorrow. Neither the sorrows of the past cause them suffering, nor the fears of the future distress them. They live peacefully and offer thanks to their Creator. This means that if man, who is created on the most excellent of patterns, restricts his thought to the life of this world, he falls 100 times lower than a creature like a sparrow, although he is higher than the animals. I explained this fact in another place by means of a comparison. It is related to this, so I shall repeat it here. It was like this.
So as far as I remember, last part we studied this third remark, let's say in general, and only covered the first paragraph in its And we can continue with the second paragraph. But before that, is there anyone who wants to give a quick summary of what we understand from this third remark, the parts that we read just now? No? No?
To give a summary?
I'd say a very short summary from what I understood is that, the first paragraph talks about how man is a guest in the world. And then it compares him, how he's, later on it compares how he's, better than animals. But if he's focused on, the life of this world as is his purpose, it lowers him below animals. And, something like that. Very short.
Okay. Yeah. So, as far as I understand, just in a nutshell, he's talking about a capital that human has. And this human can spend his capital on a worldly life. I'm just using the words author used in the explanation. We can discuss. If he spends his capital, which means relying on his ego, making worldly life his goal, then he becomes lower than animals, lowest of the low. But if he instead spend his capital within the sphere of permission of the generous one, or let's say for the ahira, I'm just trying to find the word the author used, but I guess it doesn't say this in this part, so I'm not trying, I shouldn't use it anyway. If he spends his capital within the sphere of permission of the generous one, of whom he is the guest, so yes, he says he will strive for a long eternal life within a broad sphere, eternal life. If he spends his capital for the eternal life, then he becomes the highest of the high. Highest of the high, lowest of the low. This is all about the verse that the chapter interprets. And then in the second paragraph and the third paragraph, and also the fourth paragraph that we read, he kind of give explanations, some details why he did it. So let's continue with the second paragraph. Who wants to take the lead? Yusuf, you said okay, so go ahead, please.
I can. Thus, if man relies on his ego and making worldly life his goal, attempts to taste temporary pleasures while struggling to make his living, he becomes submerged within an extremely constricted sphere that departs. All the members, systems, and faculties given him will testify against him at the resurrection and will bring a suit against him. Whereas, if he knows himself to be a guest and spends the capital of his life within the sphere of permission of the generous one of whom he is the guest, he will strive for a long eternal life within a broad sphere, then take his rest and ease, and later he may rise to the highest of the high. I might ask just a few questions here. And we can definitely read this as something that is looking to future. But is it possible that the things that the author is asked or suggesting or foreseeing in here, are they verifiable? So, because he says, testifying against me at the resurrection, or bringing suit against me. So, is there a way that I can somehow get a sense of this before dying, like before literally dying? Or is this something that I should expect after I die? Likewise, he is talking about rising to the highest of the high. or he will live for a long eternal life within a broad sphere. Is this something again to happen after death, or is this rising to the highest of the high is something that can happen while I am here, or while I'm living, while I'm sensing? Can I make it here and now?
Yes. So here and now, how can I read this? I need to think about it.
I have one question, even before the text. So why are we trying to read it here and now? Because if I read it as in future, like it says, this will happen, that will happen. So it's easier to understand, obviously. We can just read it and say that, oh, okay, that will happen. And I trust the guy, and also he's relying on Quran. These are obviously interpretations of the Quran. I remember verses, saying the same thing. All your bodily members will testify against you. I can say that, okay, this is good. This will happen. This is something I learned. And close the book and continue living. Since when something about the future is given to me, I have only an option to take it, believe it or not believe it, and then adjust my life accordingly. But that's all I can do. So what happens when I read it here and now? What is the difference?
This reminds me of my conversations with my parents, and I guess it happens pretty much with every child and parent. So your parents want you to act in a certain way, and you just don't. Then they simply say, well, once you become old, you will see. And it never helps though. Like still, I keep doing what I used to do, right? So Quran is giving me guidance, and I'm expecting it to be more effective than my parents like threatening me with, well, once you grow, you will see, sort of a thing. Just because otherwise, once I get old and once I see, it's already too late. I mean, what's the point of seeing it afterwards? So there must be another message, or because since the speaker is much wiser than my parents are, within the message itself and within the life that I live, there must be some sort of a more lively, more real warning than just sort of fortune telling what's going to happen in the future.
This reminded me some verses in Quran. Alhamdulillah, that was really helpful. We all know that there are certain verses in which Creator tells us that in hereafter, when they brought together, they will see, but it will be too late for them. Right? He says. They would say, I wish, alas, I wish, I did it that way, this way, whatever. But it will be too late for them. So I guess we can also read these verses as Quran is telling us, do not take my verses just regarding the future, otherwise it will be too late for you. Try to read them here, right now. Try to understand in your current moment, implement them there. Otherwise, if you take it for the future, it will be too late for you.
So how do we take this here and now?
So what he says, if man relies on his ego and making worldly life his goal, attempts to taste temporary pleasures, while struggling to make his living, he becomes submerged within an extremely constricted sphere, then departs. So, like, there are different things comes to my mind. Because when we look at our own life, when we look how we live life, we can easily see this. Like, we can easily see that the author is talking about us right now. This is what happens most of the time to me, right? I try to enjoy what is, immediate to me. I try to just satisfy myself physically, maybe emotionally, doesn't matter, but it's just my body, the system is working here, and that's all. And in this regard, I'm really constricted because there are only a certain amount of pleasures I get. I mean, even from a surface level, there are only a certain amount of pleasures I get. My tongue can distinguish many maybe tastes, but only a few of them I like. And I enjoy them to some extent only. And there are some other pleasures as well, but they are all either too short or too limited. So I am constricted in, even from, let's say, a physical point of view. And like he says, become submerged within an extremely constricted sphere and departs. It's my life, right? I try things and then I fail or I succeed, and then the moment passes. I even don't remember most of the things. They just pass, they just depart, leaves me. Nothing remains with me. From this point of view, if I try to achieve things, if I try to give pleasure to myself. Like, remember, for instance, how much you would study for every exam in college, right? It's so important for you. You have to be successful. You have to get the best grades. You get best grades or don't. You don't even remember them next month. They just depart. They just leaves you. Every success story, right? It's a story of sadness because it ends, and then you say, "You know what? I don't care." You just waste your time.
I have a question. Are you done?
Yeah.
So in the beginning it says, if man relies on his ego and making worldly life his goal, is he talking about two separate things here? Or is he saying that making worldly life his goal is very connected to man relying on his ego? And if it is connected, I'm trying to see how, if I relied on my ego, I had worldly life as my goal. Like, I'm trying to see the connection there. It's not very clear to me.
That's a great question. Before that, Roland comment, he's asking whether our voice is breaking up for others as well, and Asim says voice is fine on my side. Okay. So, I assume it's you. So, going back to the question, what is the connection? You said relying on ego and making worldly life.
Right, because when I rely on my ego, it's not clear to me that my worldly life is my goal. Maybe I haven't thought deep enough into it, but do you guys think that he is saying that they're inherently connected, or he's speaking about two different things there?
The relation between the ego, relying on the ego, and
worldly life as your goal.
Making worldly life your goal.
What can be an example for making worldly life my goal? What does this mean? What is the alternative life? What is its alternative?
Well, worldly life as your goal is, the temporary pleasures are enough for you. That's all you're seeking, just more temporary pleasures that perish. And that's just, and even though it is painful for you, that's just the world you live in. You just keep trying to seek greater temporary pleasures, type of thing. Worldly life is your goal. Do you think it can fulfill you?
So let's give some examples for temporary pleasures. What would it be?
Having a Ferrari.
Having a Ferrari. Okay. Well, don't have such a goal. I mean, just increase examples because it's so an extravagant example. Not everybody here is dreaming of a Ferrari, I assume.
When I first started at my current work,
I cannot even imagine Ferrari.
we should talk it, in our
Okay.
My soul is so cheap.
when I first started, Emin is giving examples. Health, safety, security, nutrition, love. These are actually great examples. Like, I receive emails about each of them every day almost from my workplace. How safety is important, security, nutrition, love. And then, he says, I already have Ferrari. So, anyway, like my example is, I started working there, and I was talking to a friend. He was suggesting me, giving me some advice, how to
Career advice.
career advices. Friend, he's a really successful person, and he's really nice. Like he was sincere and trying to help. It's not like bossing or trying to. That's what is truth. He said, "Because you should, now you are academics or whatever they call the faculty. Now." To home, you continue working and so on. You should do it, because you love it. The work will be in your mind all the time.
She started crying. She says, "What a life you have."
Oh.
She's feeling pity of you.
So I said, "I don't think so." He was surprised. What do you mean? You don't think so? Like, this is the only way to success. I said, I have other things to do. Like, I cannot, invest my life on whatever you're suggesting. He was surprised, not because, I was disobeying him or something. He was just surprised, like he didn't know any better. And so anyway, like this is, I guess, what I understand from making worldly life my goal. It doesn't have to be spending my entire time to work. It might, I may be distributing things to time slots, but still, when I look at what I am distributing, like sometimes it's work, sometimes it's sports, sometimes it's socialization. Why? Because I need socialization to get healthy. Sometimes meditation, sometimes, I don't know, hanging out with religious friends so that, my mind gets clear. But at the end, the goal is always having a better worldly life. Now, people are more clever. They don't suggest, spending entire life to work. They say, oh no, don't work that hard. Otherwise, after 5 years, you will become this worker. So instead, work 7 hours, 8 hours, and do some meditation, hang out with friends, not too much, half an hour, 1 hour, then continue working. So, from our point of view, it seems like, things getting better. Because they're suggesting, spend some time for yourself, with your friends, with your family. But at the end, it is always having a better worldly life.
So previously it was cage chicken, now cage free.
Yes.
But not free range yet.
Yes, exactly.
Not yet.
Then it will become organic, and your salary will increase. So you will be the guy who's the expert or whatever. So you will have time to spend on your own pleasure. So nobody would interfere with you. For instance, you will get your tenure, right? So you will become organic, the most expensive one. But still, the point doesn't change. It's always worldly life. Contribute as much as you can. So this is what I understand from spending my capital to worldly life. And how it is related to relying on ego, I guess it's like when I look at the moments that I do it that way, the way I explain. Like I spend my time to make my worldly life better, to become a better professor, to become a better postdoctoral researcher or a better student. I realize that I do this because I think first success and then happiness comes through my own hands. I have to do it because otherwise I cannot be successful, otherwise I cannot be happy. I have to make it. If I fail to make it, I have to seek refuge from with or from? Seek refuge from my friends. So relying on their egos, relying on their hands. So sharing some labor share. But at the crux, at the core, I guess the idea is I have to do it. We have to do it. Thus, we have to work hard. Thus, we have to spend some time socializing. Thus, we have to have good families, whatever. I don't know.
Here he says, while struggling to make his living. This is common to anyone, I guess. Everybody is struggling to make their living, right? No matter what you believe in, you need to work, you need to earn money, you need to get food, whatever. So, but as if he's now talking about, while I am in such a condition, while I'm in such a condition of struggling, like this is inevitable for me, while doing that, still my goal is to, as if close my eyes to my struggle and say that still I can make it better. This is inevitable, I'm going to suffer anyways. So let's try to ease this by getting the Ferrari or getting some title so that people are going to talk good about me and I'm going to feel good. So I guess mostly this is what I'm seeing in myself, for example. I am looking for people's head nodding me, really. Or people saying that, wow, this thing that you did is awesome. Like, I don't know if it was a code that works, it works perfect. If it's a paper, whatever. So this actually, many of the times I find myself running after. So it doesn't look like it is adding any quality of life, anything to my quality of life, but just my quest for the blinking eyes of someone towards me. And it is something totally worldly because it's passing by. It doesn't add anything to me, truly. But relying on my ego, I'm saying that I want to feel important. I want to feel like some significant man, because this is what ego is, I guess. And then, how does this put me into a very constricted sphere, though? What is it that he mentions? It puts me
The Emin is raising hand, so before answering to your question, maybe we should give mic to him. Go ahead, Emin, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to share my understanding of this phrase Abdurrahman brought up, thankfully. I first of all, I just follow the typical method of replacing the word "and" with "so." Therefore, relying on ego means, or it's almost as equal as making worldly life the goal. So they share more or less the same meaning. Relying on ego and making worldly life the goal, the objective, the purpose. And if I have to And I'd like to give an example from my own work life. So I'm an engineer working in an office environment with a team of different people, different backgrounds. And there's a goal in that organization. The goal is to make an airplane, make a car. And instead, let's say I am very good at playing chess, and I get into that environment, office environment, and I start asking people to play chess with me. I'm asking them to participate in my own activity, clueless or rejecting the whole idea about making airplanes. It could be either way. But I think the point is I rely on my own ego, meaning I do not consider the fact that, or possibility that I might already I could have already been assigned an objective or a task or responsibility in a certain context. So obviously that office environment is an analogy. It's analogous to the whole entire universe, or my universe, my existence. So I find myself existing in this form of life. And I think in principle, I got two different paths in front of me. Either I will rely on my ego, which means constricting myself to 60, 80, whatever amount of years of pleasure, and combined with suffering and eventually departing, or I will stop to think whether there is already a goal that's assigned to me. And to answer that question, obviously I'm going to have to study, research, look around, question, and look for answers, ask other people, etc., the whole 9 yards. And that is, I think, the second example I was trying to give is exact opposite of relying on ego or making the worldly life one's goal. So if I think about it, it's not necessarily about the cliche, typical, like a bad or undesired actions we usually associate the ego and world with, like money or your reputation or Ferrari. I think that's really not the point that's been made here, as far as I understand. The point is, at the very fundamental level, what is that? What is it that? How do you define yourself and your goals, your aspirations, your expectations, or what is expected of you in this world? Where is that definition coming from? If it's like the person who wants to play chess, where he's supposed to design an airplane, that is relying on ego. It means that's something completely incorrect and wrong position to take, even though you might take pleasure in that activity. But that's not the point. So to find out what the point is, I need to look around, see what others are doing. I need to ask myself, what is that hardware is supposed to do? What is that software is doing? What's going on here? Why are there cubes? Why are there meetings, etc.? Then eventually I would develop the goal, quote unquote, the real goal or expected goal, and I would live in harmony with everyone else. So similar to that analogy, I would be confident in my life and peaceful with my existence, with everything is created and what they are pointing to. So obviously, the last couple of minutes, I wanted to focus on the initial step, and eventually after this, the Creator, God, etc., that comes later on. But that's the corollary of this important first step, in my opinion.
Jazakallah khair. By the way, if Asmoso said the voice was breaking up, so if it is terrible, the voice breaking, just let me know, because I just realized that the computer is connected to a network that it's not supposed to. I can correct it, but we have to, have a break for 2 minutes. If it's not terrible, we can continue. Let's continue, and they will let us know.
So while Amin was talking, an example came to my mind. So let's say Zainab is here, raising a child. Is this a worldly goal, or is this like, I want to raise her and she's going to become a good person? So what can be wrong in that? Can this go wrong? Or when will it go wrong? For example, if I say, I want to raise her so much so that she memorizes Quran, is it possible that can I go wrong with having such a highly elevated goal, for instance?
Sure, why not? You can, it could be something you brag to others with. Like, oh wow, my child is Hafiz, or something. I think that's the most common thing. Right? You can brag to other people. That in that situation, your intention is not for preserving the words of Allah, but to show off.
It might be that I am working hard because I need to bring food to my family. So can this go wrong, for example? And I'm just bringing bare minimum, not that I'm bringing perfect food each and every time. Looks like if I am feeling important with that, for instance, not seeing this act as a means of learning about my maker, or let's put it this way, why do I act? Why do I live? If I don't ask this question and simply go with, I have to do it, then it really it constricts me in a very small sphere. And I feel like this when I am, let's say, with Zainab as well. Because it looks like every moment is just going away from my hands. And if you ask me why are you playing with the girl, I say, well, because simply she is sweet, that's it. And if I take it as shallow as this, I'm feeling as if I have to record every moment of her in the camera, because it just departs. And even if I enjoy the moment is also departing, my joy is also departing. So it's sometimes becoming so frustrating of a joy, really. Something as sweet as playing with your daughter can become, and actually is becoming, a worldly goal, because I simply enjoy it. This is why I'm doing it. It's sweet. I never give a second thought on that.
I would like to continue, at least try to summarize what you're saying, because I think it's starting to make more sense. If you see a baby, you feel this sweetness, and you want to pick it up, and then without thinking about it or really doing much, you just pick her up, and then it's sweet, and it's just that much. And this action, where it's just sweet, I do it, and that's all, there's nothing more to it, it's relying on the self, or it's relying on the ego, because you're just following whatever the sweetness thing is. You're just following it, and you're not searching any more than that. You're not actually looking to what it points to, what it means. Is there anything more to it? You're just picking her up because you have this little need, but you're not, I guess like the real crux is just leaving it at that. You're not going further than that. You're just saying the self is like the end point. And this is relying on yourself.
I guess another aspect of relying on the self can be understood when contrasted with the other alternative. We suggest seeing yourself as guest. So in this sense, I'm taking relying on self as whatever is in front of me, it's through my working, or it's through my doing. But when you see yourself as guest, you know that everything is being served to you.
So it has meaning.
Sorry?
So it has meaning if it's being served.
It has a meaning, but even before that, like everything is given to you, everything is provided to you. So it's not you that creating things, or it's not you that you can rely on.
In the baby example, I could say that this baby is being served, the sweetness in me is being served. I pick her up, it's being served, this feeling is being served. Is this different because now I'm acknowledging that it's being served? Is there a difference,
Difference between what and what?
The previous example where I was just picking her up because I had such an emotion.
I guess if you take it as such, now you have a likelihood of saying that where is this coming from? Because in the first place, I was simply saying that I don't care about source. I just enjoy that's it. But if I take it as it is being given, then at least there's an open door for me to say that where is this coming from and why is it coming to me? But if I never even look at this aspect of it, I just found it. It was here. That's it. I just eat it and don't think about where it comes from. Is it sustainable? Is it going to come again? Why was it here? I don't care about it. I only care about, she is sweet. I liked her next moment. But if I am a guest and I am being provided with this cuteness in there and the joy in me is also being provided, then I can start asking why. Well, something is awkward in here. Why is that happening? So I guess it's opening up a door to this consciousness of being a guest.
And also, like practical life, our practical lives are also transformed, because your example, taking the pictures. You see something sweet and you say, okay, I have to take a picture, otherwise, I cannot preserve it. So I guess it resembles the fact that your mother or your father or yourself preparing something really delicious for your wife. You're spending time preparing it and then serving, and she takes it, she says, oh, this is so good, I have to keep it and store it somewhere. Instead of tasting, instead of eating, just stores it. Because, the only relation she sees, it's just the sweet thing and herself, and she likes it, so she doesn't want to lose it. She has to store it. And of course you get angry, because your message is just got lost.
And you turn the table.
Exactly, just like a man. But on the other alternative, she realized that she's a guest being served by the husband. And she enjoys the moment. Like, this is the real enjoyment of the moment. You were asking, am I not allowed to enjoy the moment? Yes, like, it's for your enjoyment already, whatever is prepared, whatever is given to you. But you should enjoy it in the way it will take you the eternal life.
Sure.
In this example, you will enjoy it because it's prepared by your lovely husband. You will enjoy the food, it's delicious, but on the top of it, maybe more, so it becomes eternal, if you assume your husband eternal, for the sake of the example. It becomes eternal because you say, I am given such a delicious food. I have such a, considerate, compassionate husband. So it opens a new realm, it opens a new dimension. Rest in the realm of food and yourself. You're not constrained or constricted with this immediate pleasure. Good looking, not even taste, good looking food, and I have to preserve it. Or good looking animal, so I have to take the food. Or flower. Otherwise, I cannot restore it. I cannot live the moment, whatever you want to call. But when you see that you are served this beauty, it opens all these dimensions.
Let's ask this question, and inshallah you will have a baby soon. But when you have this little baby, and everybody says, even today, my wife was saying that she talked to her friend, and her friend her kids are now in kindergarten. And she was telling her that their baby times are the best. Just enjoy it. As they grow, problems are growing. So now I am trying to enjoy Zeynep in this being in mind. I mean, it's such a stressful thing. just disappearing and the troubles are getting closer. So even if I preserve the moments, it's not like, let's say from my phone, I showed her video to you yesterday, she was giggling, whatever. It's not giving the same joy. I mean, it's gone. So how am I able to, how can I enjoy her right now so that it becomes an eternal joy? It should be right now, but my experience with her might, even to the level of intention, my intention to, okay, let me go and play with my daughter. It should be so much so that I want to make some eternal moments. So how do I do that? Otherwise, I know exactly how it feels to be constrained in a very small sphere. This is what we experience the whole time. But how to make it the other way around?
I guess Emin, I was about to read his name. Emin has great answers to that.
She has a daughter. He has a daughter.
Yeah, sorry, I missed half the jokes because unfortunately you guys are still breaking up. But anyways, that's just a technical comment. I wanted to say something about intention. I think we should give a little bit credit to intention, our intentions in doing or performing certain actions. Like, for example, if I am at a friend's house and I am trying to light a candle and drop the match and the entire house catches a fire, that's just an accidental fire and I would be treated as such. But if I drop the same match into the carpet on purpose just to put the entire house, just to, light up the entire house, that's arson, and I would be treated accordingly. So same action, physically everything is same. Put, zoom in, look all the way from different, three-dimensional world. I'm doing exactly the same thing, perhaps. I mean, not perhaps, exactly the same thing, except my intention was changed. In both cases, I dropped the match and the house, got burned down. In one case, I go to prison. In another case, you just say sorry and insurance will pay everything for it. So I know this is kind of very basic fundamental, so I may not be on the same frequency as Yusuf and Birkan, but I wanted to focus on this fundamental piece personally to better understand what everyone is saying and why what they are saying is important. So why did I talk about intention? Because where it says here, whereas if he knows himself to be a guest, this phrase reminded me of intention. So that shows a certain intention. So you are in a certain disposition, a perspective, a worldview. So that sets up your entire experience until you die. And it's not just some anecdotal or some religious phrase you say when you do certain things. It's kind of the heart of the experience, the intention. So yeah, it may not be as tangible as 5 pounds of water, but it's there. I feel it, I experience it. The intention changes things. It's not just some arbitrary feeling or emotion. It changes the experience in its entirety. So therefore, my attitude towards my daughter, or my intention when I'm handling her, when I am spending time with her, it's everything. Because depending on my intention, who knows, maybe there's a way to continue this experience for eternity. Again, like I said, I'm kind of lagging behind. I'm not ready to make any bold claims about eternity or God or etc. But I feel like I'm getting close there. So I need your help. But I wanted to focus on this important, what should I say, element of this whole discussion is intention. Just one element, but I thought it's important to understand what's going on with this. You know you are a guest, oops, all of a sudden you gain eternity. How is really that possible?
Jazakallah khair.
Yes, that's a good question. How does playing with Zainab becomes eternal? And also there was, while giving an answer to this, anyone, there was also another statement right before this. All the members, systems, and faculties given him will testify against him at the resurrection. How is it that if I play with Zainab for worldly or egotistical ways, how is it that my faculty of love is going to testify against me? This is just a case study applied to anything. So is it again something that I'm going to see eventually, or do I see it, when does this resurrection happen? So now we have two questions.
To open the floor, I would say that, let's say you have this feeling, you see Zainab now, this feeling of she's a baby, she's amazing, great, sweet. That feeling will die, and it will go away, it will perish. And you can't make that feeling itself like eternity. Like that feeling won't last forever. However, what that feeling or that sweetness it will take you to is realizing that that sweetness and that joy, it was never from Zainab yourself. It was not from you yourself either. There was actually a creator behind that. There was a source behind that. And it will take you to the eternal one, not to the eternity of that emotion itself, but that emotion or that feeling dying will take you to the eternal one. It will make you realize that joy, the source of it didn't die, and that he will create another type of joy for you. To open the floor.
One way maybe to understand is, so all faculties, members, systems testifying against him. So him here, one relies on ego. So all the feelings I have, or all faculties, all the members I have, will testify against me when I try to rely on myself. They tell me that you cannot rely on yourself. I want to love my child in the best way, and then she starts crying and love disappears. I want to be the best friend to my friend, and then something happens, they stop. So my ability to make friendship testifies against me and say that you cannot rely on yourself. My intellect testifies against me time I forget something, which happens more frequently nowadays. So, like everything I claim to be myself, to be mine, or everything I try to rely to make my life better, they testify against me and says, no, this is not the way. You are going wrong path. So I guess one way of reading it as everything is guiding me, everything is warning me. This is the wrong making all my claims when I rely on my ego empty. There's one comment from him. He says, not emotion but human experience. Human experience is more than the immediate emotion. Memory is a good example. Human experience is more than the immediate emotion. Memory is a good example. This sounds like, what is it? There's an ad in Turkey, Alioğlu, is a famous builder. People bring some plans, building plans in front of him, and he says, no, not this, okay, this one. So this comment sounds like, no, I didn't like the emotion example, no, I didn't like the color example. Memory example, okay, it's good, you can continue with this. So okay, let's continue with the memory, inshallah.
Can I interject?
Please go ahead.
My comment is totally misunderstood. Although we found out about a good joke. What I mean is, it's not the emotion that lasts for until eternity. It is the human experience that's the component that lasts, that goes into eternity. The emotion, that immediate emotion itself, like Abdurrahman said, it obviously fades away, it departs us, but the experience is more than the emotion. And to understand what I'm saying is, we could think of the example of memory, human memory. So we remember things, even our remembrance of certain experiences that took place in the past gives us joy or happiness or whatever, or the other way around. So it's still with us. This is just an example for the fact that human experience is not just immediate neurons firing in my brain. So that's what I wanted to emphasize. So this has nothing to do with, don't use emotion example or memory example. I hope it's clear.
Okay, Jazakallah khair for the clarification. This makes much more sense, obviously. Zainab also liked this version.
So this one reminds me of people, especially at their later age. And it starts happening even at my age, although, well, I am almost old anyways. So, for example, let's say any parent would say this. My parents definitely does. I don't know if I will also do it. But let's say your kids go to college, they don't call you that frequently anymore, or they don't, and then they say, oh yeah, you raised them, and this is their response. So now, as if, because there was an expectation for a response, I was doing it for myself eventually. So I am now loving her. She's cute, but because I enjoy, I love her. It's not that I am loving her so that she enjoys. I mean, there's this self aspect of it. And eventually, as if I'm expecting, let's say, her at an age to respond to my love. And at that age, my regretful saying that, yeah, you love them, you raise them, and this is what they do to you. I guess this is the resurrection of, or the self-questioning that is taking place right there. I guess this happens more frequently with friendships. Let's say in the college, you are very good friends with someone. College finishes, you go to a city, your friend goes to another city, and you are always the one that calls. He doesn't call back. And you say, see, this is the guy. I did this and this and this to this person, and now he's not even calling me in the Eid. So I shouldn't have done it in the first place. So now, as if my false use of love is backfiring and testifying against me. And I guess this happens in every facet of life. It might be studying for an exam or whatever. So as I do it for the self, meaning that I just do it because it's a reflex, or I do it for myself. I don't go beyond the self. I don't look for any meaning or anything in it. I just get lost in the moment, get constrained in the moment, then immediately it backfires and testifies against me, and my conscience knows about it. Once I am by myself, which generally happens when I look at a mirror and I'm talking to a mirror like mad people, say that you deserve this. And the guy in the mirror tells this back to me.
Metaphoric, or because it happens to me like literally.
Today the guy spoke to me, for example. I was leaving work. Before leaving, I was in the restroom. I looked at the mirror and we had a short conversation. It, I guess, happens a lot. So this resurrection is, today it was the end of the day for the work. So this was the resurrection, or like death of the day was happening. And I realized something that looking at the mirror, I realized that it's testifying against me. Some of my choices are now testifying against me. So the thing that is being mentioned in here, yeah, it can eventually happen after I die too. But even today, I experienced that this is happening.
Actually, like after all these experiences, you are certain that it will happen when you die. Like because your death is such a milestone for your life. It sounds paradoxical, but your death is a really big milestone, and all your experiences, individual experiences, millions of them, when you are alive up to this moment, testifies for, not against, but for, that when you die, everything will testify against you. Every false claim you made will testify against you. And when Quran talks about this, whether in this life, within this moment, or hereafter, after the death, you can say with certainty that, yes, this is the truth. Because I experienced it already. I know that something even bigger will definitely happen after I die. I believe it. A similar example, I guess, Faraz was giving a few weeks ago, talking about wife getting angry, and he's apologizing, and then saying, okay, I already apologized, so why she's not okay? As if, you can change things, or as if when you do something, the response or the conclusion effect has to come. Or maybe a similar example with what you said, like after Faraz gave this example, I realized how much I do it. Like you know something, for instance, you know how to do something, X, doesn't matter. And you know that the way you know, it's the true way. You tell it to your, let's say, your wife or your friend, but they continue doing it their way. So, and you get angry. Okay, I already shared my knowledge. How can you continue with your way? And what I say is true, they also accept it, but no, they won't do it. And you get angry. So this anger is your knowledge testifying against you. Saying that, you thought it was your knowledge. You thought, you had the ownership and you can distribute to everyone. You can put it in everyone's mind, anyone's mind. It was your knowledge. Now this anger tells you that the knowledge that you thought it was yours, testifying against you. No, it's not you, it's yours. The source of this knowledge can put it to others' mind or others' heart, let's say, so that they will act on it. Or the source could choose not to do it, and they wouldn't act as you wish. The anger is, or your knowledge, acting, testifying against you.
Yes, how to make it eternal is unanswered. So we answered the first part.
Yeah.
Anything about the second part? Just to remind.
I think, as far as I remember, Asim is like a kind of expert on that, isn't he? Making things eternal. Maybe Asim, you can help us. Even better expert, I see Feria, she's there. Asim, like assistant professor. Feria is the full professor with tenure, everything. So if they can help us, inshallah. We also have teaching assistant, Hatice. Nothing. How to make things eternal. The only example comes to my mind is the husband making a food example. Like
This is like politically incorrect example. So
why?
what's wrong with a husband? The husband should sit down and eat.
Oh, okay.
I mean, why should you prepare the food? Please.
So it's politically incorrect in your political words.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I see. Emin says it's already No. I'm not commenting on the comment. Not another joke. I'm sure he will explain it. You want to say something? Yeah. Oh, go ahead, please, Emin.
I heard one of the questions was how gain eternity, if I heard you correctly. And at least my personal understanding is it's already eternal. It's just a matter of interpretation of existence or intention, I said earlier. And obviously, I don't know how to express my thoughts briefly and concisely, but in short, when I am able to recognize the fact that I exist because someone is giving existence to me, that recognition and acknowledgement right there gives me eternity, because that's kind of paradigm shift or transforming my worldview. Previously, I would say I just exist, I don't know, I have a certain number of days remaining in this life, just wandering around, blah blah blah, etc. Right? In the second option, I redefine my human experiences as manifestations of an absolute creator. So if something exists, it has to be made. And obviously some of these phrases I recognize are conclusive statements, but I am skipping certain steps in my thought process for the sake of time. And I think in short, when I realize that all this is happening around me, from atoms to the planets, from material and immaterial experiences, everything, it cannot be just haphazardly coming into existence all at the same time, trillions and trillions and trillions of these different things. So there has to be an artist making me and my experiences and the entire world like a statue. The sculpture is being made in real time. It's being sustained in real time, giving existence in real time, and taking stuff, giving stuff. That's just the manifestation of action. If there is nothing taken, then there wouldn't be action. So sometimes I get older. My hair used to be full pitch black, jet black. Now it's no longer the case. But at the same time, I'm growing, I'm maturing, I'm learning more. I hope my wisdom and insights are also developing. So there's always this, obviously, contrast. But that's nothing to be apologized for or get upset about. This dynamic nature of existence is nothing but a compassionate indication there is a creator and everything is coming in existence with his will. Real time and space, if you want to also consider that. So that way, that's why I mean by eternity already exists right here. So I don't have to step out of this existence to gain eternity by doing certain religious actions. It's already right there with me, but that can be gained through acknowledgement or recognition of an absolute creator. And once I understand that the creator exists and it's not dependent on any other things that are already existed, then automatically I am connecting myself to him, and not because I want to connect myself to him or anything like that, because I am recognizing I'm coming from him. I'm just being created because I cannot create myself. So therefore, I think that's how I gain eternity today. Just changing the radio frequency a little bit, the way I perceive my existence.
Jazakallah khair. Any other comments from our online participants? Jokes aside, we really miss comments from Asim, Feria, from others as well, but especially from this student, it's been a long time. Inshallah, they won't make us, give us more misery by keeping their voice for themselves. Let's continue, inshallah.
Shall I read? Moreover, all the members and systems given to man will be happy with him and testify in favor of him in the hereafter. Moreover, all the members, well, this is a continuation of the previous sentence.
So this is the opposite of testifying.
Okay. Moreover, all the members and systems given to men will be happy with him and testify in favor of him in the hereafter. For sure, all the wonderful faculties given to men were not for this insignificant worldly life, but for an everlasting life of great significance. For sure, all the wonderful faculties given to men were not for this insignificant worldly life, but for an everlasting life of great significance. For if we compare man with the animals, we see that man is very rich in regard to faculties and members, 100 times more so than the animals. But in the pleasures of earthly life and in animal life, he falls 100 times lower. For in each pleasure he receives is the trace of thousands of pains. The pains of the past and the fears of the future and the pain at each pleasure's passing spoil the enjoyment to be had from them and leave a trace in the pleasure. But animals are not like that. They receive pleasure with no pains. They take enjoyment with no sorrow. Neither the sorrows of the past cause them suffering, nor the fears of the future distress them. They live peacefully and offer thanks to their Creator. This means that, just to finish, if man, who is created of the most excellent of patterns, restricts his thought to the life of this world, he falls 100 times lower than a creature like a sparrow, although he is higher than the animals.
I haven't realized that before, but now we studied this testifying against him. And then he says, if you use your faculties in the right way, you testify in favor of them. They will be happy. So this is so encouraging, so maybe relaxing interpretation of the creation. Because author is telling me that when you use your faculties in the wrong way, you will get warning. When you use them in the right way, you will get applause. So you will know it. You will have an experience, make a connection with eternal life within this experience, recognize your Creator, realize that it's given to you as a gift from your compassionate Creator. And these ideas, these understanding will be happy with you, meaning you will feel the satisfaction with this understanding.
Support.
Exactly. It will support you, saying that, yes, this is a right interpretation. And then they will testify in favor of you. You will have the peace of mind, you will have the satisfaction. So it's as if telling me, like this may be another interpretation of the verse. Like I can only partly remember, sorry, I already told you that my memory, my intellect is passing away, but the Quran, Creator says, like, there is no nation that we leave them without guidance. So here, I guess I can interpret this verse as whatever you do, every action of yours, every choice of yours, there is no choice in you that will leave without guidance. If you make the right choice, everything you have will testify in favor of you. if you make the wrong choice, everything you have will testify against you. So you are not left alone. Guidance is always with you. And then he says, this is, I guess, becoming more interesting because the story will be about this as well. For sure, all the wonderful faculties given to men were not for this insignificant worldly life, but for an everlasting life of great significance. So this is also, I guess, really important. Like, we have all these faculties. I can think, I can imagine, I can be sad, I can be angry, I can be happy, all these different things I can do. And like, they're almost infinite, both the numbers. If I try to count them, I cannot. And also their extent is limitless. I can see what is in front of me. I can see subparticles, like subatomic particles. I can see the stars over there. Limitless. And also I can see what is beyond everything. I can look at your face, for instance. I can know that you are bored. Or I can look at your face and I can see that you are amazed. So my ability to see is limitless. But the way I use them, just like wasting them in the worldly life, author is telling me that, isn't it obvious that they are not just for this? You're just wasting them. Like, you taking the gold and, I don't know, like just using it as, how to say? Sorry?
Hammer?
Hammer. Okay, that's a good example.
They're just saying like this. Don't use gold for a hammer.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. Yes, you have the gold and you use it for hammer. Yes, it works. I mean, it's a solid material, it's heavy, so it can, nail. But it's obvious, isn't it obvious that, it's more than this? Like, when we look at the life, the way we live, yes, our faculties works perfectly. There's as if there's a fit, the way we use them. I use my intellect, for instance, to publish. She used her intellect for, for something else, for drawing. You use your intellect for driving your car in the best way. So it fits, but it's the same thing, like as using the gold for the hammer. Why don't you use it for its real purpose? Use this limitless capacity to reach the limitless life, eternal life. See the eternal or limitless or the most powerful, however you call it, from your perspective, the creator.
So I guess just to tie it to our example then, when I enjoy the sweetness, cuteness of Zainab, so I should ask the question, who's sweet here? Is it Zainab that is sweet? Where is the sweetness, cuteness coming from? Because if I take it as Zainab is cute and sweet, if it was belonging to her, it should stay with her, but it does not. It just comes and goes. So as if for a cinema screen, I enjoy some scene in there, but if I think it to be belonging to the screen, no, just screen, once the lights are off, there's nothing over the screen. So I should be aware of what I am loving, what is it that I enjoy. Because this takes me back to my childhood. So our neighbor's son, he was such a confident boy. He's much younger than me, so I know him as a small kid, but he was so confident. And the reason that he was confident, we were asking him, how wealthy is your father? And like applying it to America, he would say, my father is as rich as Bill Gates. So he knows his father. He is so much convinced that his father is so wealthy, even if he doesn't see any money around himself, this gives him such an eternal comfort, relatively speaking, that wherever he goes, he has no worry. Because he knows that if he is going to be in need of, his father is as rich as Bill Gates. So I am worried about the cutenesses to disappear, because I'm not having the security of the source of cuteness or beauty. But if I say that this beauty is, yeah, today I enjoy the same beauty in my daughter, but actually if I raise my head, like the sparrows in the street are as cute actually. And every day I see those sparrows, or the cats, or the sunrise, or anything around me. They are the same cuteness actually. So the cuteness is being provided coming from the same source, and it's always there. Okay, the sparrow is going to die or disappear, whatever, but all of them are coming from the same source. So if I say that this experience with my daughter is given to me to wake me up, to get this connection with the source, get the security, then I wouldn't be worried about trying to capture all the moments of my daughter, record it. I don't know when I'm going to watch them. Yeah.
Actually, you might watch them twice or 3 times and it'll be cute. And the 4th and 5th time, it's not going to be cute anymore. You'll be bored. And even then, you'll realize that the cuteness was not even in there.
Well, even if getting bored is something good, what's happening is, as the age progresses, you become upset when you remember those old moments. Oh, I was so young. Oh, she was so cute. And you start crying. I mean, you see this with elder people more when they look at the old pictures. So they were being recorded, those moments, so that it's going to repeat the joy, but eventually it becomes just a sadness, source of sadness.
They testify against them.
And it says that it receives this trace of thousands of pains. There's this trace of pain in those joys. If I don't see the source, if I don't end up seeing that it is, and the beauty is eternal. I mean, when we say source, it sounds very maybe philosophical, whatever. But if I do not see that the beauty that I observe is actually, speaking very courageously, I am observing beauty of God actually. This is eternal beauty. But if I cut this connection, if I do not know that it is beauty of God that is being manifest in front of me, if I take it as Zainab's beauty or sparrow's cuteness, once sparrow dies, beauty dies as well. So these traces of pains are everywhere. So even it becomes that, let's say if you have a health issue in your stomach, you wouldn't like to eat food because you know that while eating it, you enjoy it so much, but once it just drops into your stomach, for the next 2-3 hours, you are going to be in horrible pain. So you are fearful of even eating anything. This is how it becomes. So the joys in life, it happens that you don't want to become friends with anybody anymore because your past experiences with your best friends all ended up so horrible that you are now fearful of starting any friendship. You say, okay, just 2 is enough. Don't go more than 2. So this is how it ends up being.
This means that if man who's created on the most excellent of patterns restricts his thought to the life of this world, he falls 100 times lower than a creature like a sparrow, although he is higher than the animals.
So, just before going any further, just one very frequently repeating theme in Quran that says, وَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. So upon them is no fear, and they are not upset. And in here, this is what the author is talking about. It says, they receive pleasure with no pains. Okay. The pains of the past and the fears of the future and the pain that each pleasure's passing spoil the enjoyment to be had from them. But when Quran talks about believers, it says they do not have any fears of future and no pain of the past. So khawf comes from the fear comes from future. Huzn, like the pain is coming from the past. So it depends a lot on the, and I guess this is the context of not having fear or pain.
I was talking to a friend about some reviews we got, and one of the reviewer said something which I enjoyed. It was like something small, maybe, but it was so specific that I was like willing to hear it. So as if somebody heard me and then making to write such a thing. And when you have these experiences, when you know that somebody is constantly listening to you, hearing you, I was telling a friend that, what, like really, like sincerely, after this moment, I don't care when we write a response to reviews that get rejected, for instance. I don't care. Because now, at least for the moment, I have this pleasure, and when you make the connection with eternity, meaning, somebody is constantly watching you, constantly listening to you. Once you have the conviction of this in the moment, it's like, I don't care for the rest. I got, what I'm supposed to get here. I got what I need here. The rest, whether it is accepted or rejected, it's just a detail for the moment. So, I guess one way to understand what you were saying, like not having any fear or not having a regret, like in the moments, some moments, not always every time, obviously, not at this point. In some moments, you make a connection with the Creator. You make a connection not just, mechanistically, not just say, oh yes, this must be created by someone. No, but you experience it in your life. You say, oh, he's watching me. Oh, he's listening. Oh, he knows what's inside my heart. When you make this connection, the rest is like there's no fear anymore about the future. For the moment, it will pass. It will not, unfortunately, last more than a few seconds or minutes. You will forget about it again. But once you have this connection with yourself and your Creator, no fear there. I guess Yusuf was making a similar comment, saying that when you believe, when you realize, when you're in connection with the Creator, even, what is your question?
Comet. Asteroid, comet.
Asteroid? A comet, okay. A comet or asteroid is about to hit the world, Earth. You just watch it with pleasure. So I guess catching these moments, making the connections, is the only thing you need. Should we continue with the example? We have 5-10 minutes. I thought you were asking something. Any other comments? So we can start reading the example. First paragraph is already kind of explained.
First paragraph.
Maybe 1, 2, 3.
A man gave one of his servants 10 pieces of gold and told him to have a suit of clothes made in a particular cloth. Then to a second one, he gave 1,000 pieces of gold, and putting in the servant's pocket a note on which certain things were written, sent him to a market. The first servant bought an excellent suit of the finest cloth with the 10 pieces of gold. while the second servant did not use his head, and looking at the first servant, and not reading the account note in his pocket, he gave 1,000 pieces of gold to a shopkeeper and asked for a suit of clothes. The dishonest shopkeeper gave him a suit of the very worst quality cloth. Then the wretched servant returned to his lord and received a severe reprimand and a terrible punishment. Thus, even the most unintelligent will understand that the 1,000 pieces of gold given the second servant were not to buy a suit of clothes, but for some important trade. In just the same way, each of the immaterial members and subtle faculties in man have expanded to a degree 100 times greater than that of the animals. For example, consider faculties and members like man's eyes, which can discern all the degrees of beauty, and his sense of taste, which can distinguish all the varieties of the particular taste of foods, and his mind, which can penetrate to all the subtlest points of reality, and his heart, which yearns for every sort of perfection. And then consider the extremely simple members of the animals, which have developed only 1 or 2 degrees. There is just this difference, that in animals a member particular to some function and special to a particular species develops more. But this development is particular.
This reminded me all these quote-unquote scientific studies trying to understand humans. We look at the animals, we say, oh yeah, you see these primates is that way, so probably this is the reason we have these faculties. As the author said, like, we look at the man with 10 gold, see what he does or she does, or it does, whatever, the animal, and say that, and look at our 1,000 golds, and try to spend it in the same way. And this is considered to be intelligent. We have this faculty of fear. We fear. We say, oh yeah, look at the animals, they fear when they see what is it, life-threatening? Yes, a threatening condition. When they're in a life-threatening condition, oh, that means we have this fear for the same reason. What about my fear of future? What about my fear of losing my friends, my family? None of them there with the animals, at least from my perspective. How dare you try to explain such a limitless power of fear with such a simple example?
The other day, there was a talk about sex difference in mice. So they're trying to understand sex difference in humans and it's a development, whatever, by looking at the mice. So, and it's just, this difference in human is as simple as the difference between mice, nothing more. So therefore, looking at them, trying to understand it in there, and then talk about why am I different between me and my wife. It's just because of a single chromosome, that's it. This is our explanation, but not going anything beyond that. Why?
And when you restrict a human being to her or his animal side, and we have such a side, right? I have this body which is not that much different than a primate, for instance. What you do sounds reasonable. If this is what you are after, yes. But this is again like spending your 1,000 of golds in a way that someone with a 10th gold does. With their 10 golds, they only have, let's say, your animal side, the body. They have every right to spend it that way. But what about you? Spending your fear only for life-threatening situations. Understanding the fear in such a way. As author says, the fear is like constantly testifying against or for you. It's a like priceless guidance for you. It's a messenger, constantly warning you. You fear future because you think you are the one who sustains yourself. You are the one who provides for the family. Therefore, you have a fear of future. What will happen to my family when I die? Like I'm not ready to die because when I die, there is no one to take care of my family. So this fear obviously telling you something. How dare you take it as the same way an animal would take?
سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم الحمد لله رب العالمين الفاتحة